New Mexico Crime Files, a deep dive into the archives, shocking and notorious cases, the arrests and what led to them, and what happened to the suspect. Here are your hosts, Dean Staley and Jessica Garrete. New Mexico Crime Files is sponsored by Medrano Struck Law Firm.
Welcome, everyone, for another episode of New Mexico Crime Files. I'm KRQE's Jessica Garrete with my co-anchor, Dean Staley.
Good to be with you, Jess.
Always a pleasure.
We've got another, let's start this off. We've got another, this is one of those crimes. The first one we're going to get into now takes place up in the Four Corners area, right? Farmington, New Mexico, which is far northwest New Mexico. And it involves one of these violent offenders who's almost sort of his own crime spree, right? His own chain of crime. He
really is going to every length to make sure he does not get caught and puts up quite a fight. It all started in 2021 when a chase started in La Plata County, then ended in a very interesting way down in Farmington with the suspect thanking police.
Right. So police get word that there was a stolen car headed their way, right, to Farmington. And I think the car was involved in a carjacking. So this is a violent, this isn't just a stolen car. This is a violent individual. And the cops see him, chase him, and he's driving crazy speeds through a neighborhood, which is typical, right? Trying to get away from the police, putting everyone at risk. And they finally, well, we should mention this, he jumps out of the car before it even stops, right, when he decides to run.
And he takes off. And just to mention, his speeds reached up to 110 miles per hour. So this guy is trying to do everything to get away from police. And he keeps doing that. Let's go and take a look.
Just before 11 p.m., Aztec police received word of a stolen vehicle out of Colorado. An officer spotted it and tried to pull over the driver, but he took off. At points, that driver, later identified as Elias Buck, hit speeds of 70 miles per hour on residential streets. The suspect then got onto southbound Highway 550 and drove out of town. The officer was trying to keep up, going 110 miles per hour, when the SUV suddenly stopped in the middle of the road. He watches as the car turns around and the driver starts heading back into town south on 550. Buck was weaving in and out of oncoming traffic. He then made a sudden turn onto a dirt road. Buck made another quick turn and jumped out of the vehicle. Well, it was still moving. The SUV eventually crashed into a fence. Buck was later caught hiding behind a house after a short foot chase. As police put him in the back of the officer's car, he thanked them.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for not shooting me.
Buck then made a request.
Hey, can you do that breathalyzer so I don't get a DUI?
Yeah, we can do that.
Buck then tried to explain to officers why he was in the stolen vehicle. Turns out it had been carjacked. He claimed he had paid the guy for a ride.
Dude, you're a young guy. What are you doing all this for?
I don't know, bro. I got scared, bro. And he was all drunk and he was driving around and I was just like, bro, like, yeah, cars are just going to be swerving around. And then I just drove away, you know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't have done it.
Buck starts to realize the seriousness of the situation and has one more question for officers.
Dude, do you think I'm going to go to jail for a long time?
I have no idea.
So one of the things that's crazy about this story, and this always, as a reporter, and you and I have been reporters for a long time, is this moment where he's talking to the cops. He's in the back of the cop car. He's being arrested. And he says, thanks, first of all, for not shooting me. So this is a fairly intelligent, present human being. He knows what he's done. He doesn't seem impaired at this point, which happens sometimes.
Right.
You've got someone who's just so drunk or so high or whatever, they don't know what's going on. He seems really conscious of what, oh, wow, you could have shot me during this chase. Thanks for that. And then the presence to say, would you give me a breathalyzer because I want to be clear that I'm not impaired so I don't get a DWI. And so you think, wow, this is a fairly reasonable human being who's creating this mayhem and is clearly violent. I mean, clearly, is putting a lot of people at risk.
Just complete chaos. And just when you're looking at that video and seeing him going that fast through this neighborhood, you never know what's going to be in a neighborhood. Like you never, and he could have crashed into many different things. He's speeding, going crazy speeds on the highway, doing U-turns, taking off. Just really one of those, you look at the video and just think, like, thank goodness no one got hurt.
Right. And so you think this story might have ended there. Okay, we caught a guy who was in a stolen car. Was he responsible for the carjacking? We're not sure, but we have him. He's arrested, and then, we deal with that. Not in this case. Elias Buck, escapes from the La Plata County Jail, right? So he is suddenly on the run.
Yes. So this was December of 2021. He's waiting for his trial to begin for the stolen car and for the chase that he caused, but he's able to escape.
Right. So now you have him on the run and police are looking for him. And then police in Farmington get a report of a suspected drunk driver. The officer responds and finds Elias Buck walking with his girlfriend. I think it was along railroad tracks. It was somewhere sort of off the road. Mm-hmm. It was in the darkness. Very scary situation for an officer, right? He comes upon them. He's trying to interview them. Hey, what are you guys doing here? You know, I'm investigating, looking for someone. We got a report of a drunk driver. And they're like, oh, no, we were just walking, right? So they're lying to the officer. And what's shocking about this is just how quickly Elias Buck turns and shoots the officer.
It is very quick. It's another, more violence that this guy is causing. And it's just very dramatic video. And luckily the officer was okay in this. He just turns around and shoots and it takes off.
Shockingly. And he says, I think Elias Buck says, are you going to detain us? And the officer I think says yes. And the minute he says yes, Elias pulls out his gun and just starts shooting, and they're very close to each other. Yeah. It's shocking that the officer survived.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at that.
Hi, guys.
Hi, how are you?
I'm Officer Bretto, Farmington Police. Where are you guys coming from?
Down the street on 20th.
Within about 7 seconds, the suspect pulls a gun and almost shoots our officer to death. We're lucky he was just hit.
Okay, do me a favor. Both of you guys take a seat right there, right?
Being detained?
Yeah, you are.
Why?
After those shots, Farmington police say 22-year-old Elias Buck disappeared into the night, leaving Officer Joseph Barretto wounded on the ground.
It's an event that we haven't had up here in 30 years, an officer shot. So it was a very singular event, very traumatizing to the department. It's been a very long week. Officers are tired.
Chief Hebby says officers worked through it, investigating tips pouring in from the community.
Everybody's been motivated to try and find the suspect that shot our officer.
But no one had actually seen Buck or his girlfriend, Victoria Hernandez, since the shooting last Friday night, until early this morning. 400 miles away, the Phoenix Police Department got an anonymous tip.
A subject similar to that description would be in a specific area in Phoenix. And officers went out there, and during their initial first contact, they weren't able to find him.
Still, officers showed Buck's picture to people around the gas station, their work soon paying off, even despite Buck changing his appearance.
The security guard had recognized him later on and called us back out there. Mr. Buck tried to flee and was quickly taken into custody by Phoenix PD.
Seen in his new mugshot, Buck's longer blonde hair is now short and brown. During this arrest, Buck was not armed, but he allegedly grabbed one of the arresting officers.
We're personally very grateful to them for scrambling over there, but we're also very, very pleased that none of them were hurt in this either, which we really thought was a strong potential.
Buck was originally in the La Plata County Jail on car theft charges, telling deputies there he would, quote, not go back to jail before escaping. After a total of 2.5 weeks on the run, Buck is back behind bars. He is now awaiting extradition to New Mexico, where he'll face charges for shooting Officer Barretto.
Officer Barretto was doing pretty well. He was actually into the station for a little bit yesterday. So he's out of the hospital. He's able to move around pretty good.
Brittany Bade, KRQE News 13.
So really lucky in this case. Lucky that the officer survived the shooting. Lucky that they found Elias Buck so soon after. There's a $10,000 reward for him at the time, of course, after shooting an officer. But I just want to point out one thing that is shocking to me, and that is this it's the most terrifying thing. I've never been a police officer, but it must just be the craziest thing where you come upon somebody. You're in the dark there. You're investigating what's supposed to be a drunk driver. You don't know who these people are. They could just be regular citizens walking along, right? And there's no sign that they're going to be violent. Elias Buck is not saying, don't come near me. I'm going to hurt you. There's no threat. There's nothing. And he seems to be sort of complying. He's asking the officer, are you going to detain us? What's going on? And then the next thing you know is a gunfire. I mean, it's just, and that happens from time to time where it goes from 0 to an officer being shot. I find that part of the job just astounding and terrifying.
And just so callous and cold that they take off running and you don't know if you've just shot and killed somebody. You don't know what has happened. Yeah. I mean, he just shoots and takes off and,
no regard for life.
Yeah, no regard for life in that situation. Again, he was caught in Phoenix. got some tips. They were able to, we had a very alert store clerk too that was helping ID them. And as you could see his face, that is from being, he's tried to take off, he's trying to escape police again. And that's him meeting the pavement.
Looks like he got some road rash on the side of his face. Yeah. I don't think the cops were taking any chances this time.
The good news, he was sentenced in March of 2023 to 10 years in federal prison. This next part, though, kind of baffles me because they have the charge of him shooting the Farmington police officer was dropped. And a lot of times they do this if it goes to the feds, they're going to go tough. So they'll drop these other charges and let the feds deal with it. But this case, I felt like he should have been tried in both cases.
And you're right, Jess, it happens all the time. They have a felon with a gun, and that's an automatic federal charge. It's 10 years. It's day for day. You don't get good time. You don't get out after 50% of your sentence. So a lot of the times the local prosecutor will just allow the federal prosecutors to take that over. And then, as you mentioned, the state charge for shooting an officer just sort of gets put in the background. Yeah. So, all right, so this next story we're going to cover involves, you saw what happens when someone doesn't want to go along with police. The next one involves someone who police were looking for, and luckily, in this case, he was cooperative. That story when we come back.
New Mexico Crime Files is sponsored by Medrano Struck Law Firm, New Mexico's trusted personal injury attorneys with nearly 40 years of combined experience, fighting for the justice and compensation you deserve. Call 505-217-2200 or visit MedranoStruckLaw.com today. Let's get back to New Mexico Crime Files.
All right, so this next story here on New Mexico Crime Files that we're going to cover is a fairly typical day for a cop, right? You see, you run a tag on a car and say, oh, that car doesn't have a registration, and you're looking for the person who belongs to the car, and then you come across this person and they have warrants.
And that's when you're in trouble and getting arrested right then. And then, of course, you always have these people who are desperate and have nothing to lose. They know they're going away, so they try everything to disappear and get away from these deputies.
Right. And this one, luckily, did not end with any officers being shot. Let's take a look.
He's not in the bathroom?
September 15th, a Bernalillo County deputy sees a man get out of a white Mercedes at a gas station near 98th and Coors. The car had an expired registration and insurance. The man who was in it walked into a store and never came out. Deputies track him down across the street.
Got any weapons on you, bro? No? What you guys got going on, dude?
I got a gun on me.
Oh, you got a gun on you? Okay, don't move.
That's Rudy Gonzalez, who explains he didn't want another run-in with deputies. Gonzalez was referencing the chase from December 2021. Back then, deputies spotted Gonzalez driving erratically and tried to get him to pull over, but he hit the gas. Deputies say he drove into oncoming traffic and blew through traffic lights, tearing through a neighborhood near Gibson and Delgado.
No traffic.
Gonzalez refused to get out of the car.
Put your hands up right now. Get out of the car,
A sergeant pulled him out. After Gonzalez was arrested, he tried to make amends.
Because.
No, you're not.
Time for sorry is over, brother.
Nearly 2 years since that chase, Gonzalez was arrested in September for a warrant tied to the 2021 car chase. Facing jail again, he had one last message for his girlfriend.
I love you, I'm going to prison. They told me I have my gun on me.
Jessica Gaudete, KRQE, News 13. I don't think those deputies are going to feel sorry for you when you say you're sorry.
Right, and here's two sides of this. Here's the guy who ran, is driving crazy speeds through a neighborhood, putting everyone at risk, makes things really hard on the cops the first time, and then when they catch him again, sort of randomly, because they come across the car and find him, this time he's cooperative. He says, I'm going back to jail.
He was indicted and eventually pled guilty to receiving a stolen firearm. Prosecutors also wrapped the other chase you saw in the story into this plea agreement that he had made. With both of those cases, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison in March of 2024.
And probably
so he's still in prison right
probably
now.
did not do 3 years. It's
Yeah.
hard to say.
Yeah, that's
he probably won't do all of
yeah.
that, right? Might do half of that even. So Judge Solomon sentenced Gonzalez to 3 years behind bars with 2 years of supervised probation. But Gonzalez picked up a new charge just last month, while awaiting sentencing on these cases.
Mr. Gonzalez, I'm not going to let you out because I did let you out on conditions of release and you picked up the new charge.
Gonzalez was placed on pretrial release in December for the 2023 arrest, the same day he took this plea deal, then was arrested in a stolen car in February, and again ran from police. He is still waiting to be arraigned on those new charges. So the next crime that we're going to talk about is one of the, I don't even know how to talk about this, Jess. It's just,
I'm going to say I have covered New Mexico news for a very long time. Yeah. And the story I'll never forget. And it's just something, you think you've heard it all until you hear this next story.
I would agree. I'd never heard about anything like this before, and I have never heard anything like this crime since.
We'll be back.
All right, so welcome back. We have talked about what this crime, how crazy and sort of weird and disgusting this crime is. I said it before. I had never heard anything like this before, and I've never heard of a crime like this since. It happened here in Albuquerque, and it made national headlines.
Just really, really disgusting and creepy. I remember that night. It was my assistant news director came up to me and said, "Hey, you're never going to believe this email we just got," claiming what happened inside of Sunflower Market.
Right.
And we thought it was a joke. Yeah. And then I'm sitting at my desk, and I hear in the police scanners behind me, it was actually happening. And so we sent crews immediately. I'm like, that is true. Police are there. We need to get there.
And we got a crew there in time to get this man being arrested, right?
Yes.
The man is accused of doing this to a customer at this grocery store.
This is an employee,
right?
And really scary stuff. Creepy, scary, disgusting. He's handing out samples.
Right.
When a woman realizes something is in her sample.
Right. Something that shouldn't be.
Yes. Here's the story.
A customer at an Albuquerque supermarket insisted last week that there was something gross in a yogurt sample that she was given. Turns out she was right. And now police are trying to link what they found to the employee who they think put it there. News 13's Ian Schwartz is live in the Newsplex with this story, and a warning, there are some graphic details.
Police got the test results back from the yogurt in question and today took a DNA sample from the employee they think may be the culprit. Detectives say once they piece everything together, the feds could get involved.
I completely think it's disgusting.
Foul, beyond words.
Customers at the Sunflower Market on Corrales Road in Alameda react to what many were hoping wasn't true. A complaint from a customer that she tasted semen in a yogurt sample an employee was handing out. Police have the results and say the yogurt 31-year-old Anthony Garcia was sampling in the store did in fact have semen in it.
It's absolutely disgusting. There's no way to justify that on any level.
The woman who filed the complaint said 2 employees were pointing at her when she was shopping with her daughter last week. She says soon after, Garcia approached her in the cereal aisle with a Greek yogurt sample. The woman tried the yogurt, spit it out, and called police. According to the report, the store manager says she was unaware employees were even handing out samples that day. Garcia, who's worked at Sunflower Market for more than a year, told police he did hand out the samples to 4 people and often does that to help boost sales. But he denies adding anything to the yogurt. He hasn't been charged in this case, but police took him away in cuffs last week for failing to show up to court on child molestation charges. Police got a DNA sample from Garcia today and plan to match it against the semen found in the yogurt next week.
Appalled. I mean, I can't imagine anyone doing that. I mean, and imagine little kids that might have sampled it.
Now, APD says it's talking with the Food and Drug Administration about possible federal food tampering charges. Police say whoever did this could also face battery charges under state law, which is only a misdemeanor. Back to you.
All right, Ian, we repeatedly called and emailed Sunflower executives at their Phoenix headquarters today for comment. They gave us nothing.
First of all, great job by this woman. She stopped it.
Yeah.
She called. That has to take a lot of guts to have to call police about this.
Right, because you have to be embarrassed as a victim, and that you even want to talk about what happened. I mean, that's pretty, it's so disgusting.
It's awful. She did getting a big settlement, which she deserved from Sunflower Market.
Mm-hmm.
So
in terms of suing them civilly, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Anthony Garcia, 31 years old. This happened in January of 2011, and by July of 2011, he was charged with adulteration of food, so a federal charge of tampering with food. And by October of that year of 2011, Anthony Garcia pleaded guilty in this case.
He was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. He, as it mentioned in the story, he had a history of sex offenses and faced trial in April of 2012 on state charges of child molestation. He pled guilty to those charges in 2014 and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Once he got out, he kept violating his probation. When he was out in 2022, he was sent back to 1 more year in jail and probations for another 5 to 20 because he just couldn't stay out of trouble.
Right, and this food tampering crime was just so crazy because it's one of the things that you expect when you're in a grocery store. You just expect that you're sort of protected from anything weird like that.
No one
you're
would
going to a
ever
legitimate
think,
place. Yeah, no one would ever think that there's something wrong with that.
And you've never thought twice about taking a sample from anyone at the store.
Yeah, really horrific stuff.
Yes.
I also want to point out, Jess, I do not remember from when we covered this story originally, but hearing this story again, you hear her saying that some of the employees were pointing at her. So it made you wonder, like, did the other employees have some idea that he had done this? That he said, hey, watch what I'm going to do? I mean, that struck me as odd, and I don't remember from the criminal case any information ever coming out about that.
Yeah, I don't recall that back then, but I know that I think he was just trying to find, he definitely was looking for the shoppers he wanted to target.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right, and whether it involved other people, I guess that was the question. Were they just pointing out to him, here's someone who might want a sample, right? Who didn't know what was going on. But that was a weird part of the story as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to end with that.
And hopefully that's the last time we cover something like that.
That's the last time I ever have to say a lot of those words on the news again.
Yeah, let's leave it at that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was another episode of New Mexico Crime Files. Thank you for taking part with us.
We'll see you next time.